Today's guest is Ron Tripodo. He is an author of the book called When No One Else Believed. It was the winner of the September 1st Book of the Day. I'm interested in having him here and listen to his story.
Words are very powerful. This is going to change lives. There's no doubt in my mind. People are looking for God. Where is he? And this story is going to show them that he's still here. And I think that's going to be, I think that in itself is going to help a lot of people.
It's hard to explain.
But there's brilliance in it. If you're deficient in one thing, it probably gives you a little bit more in something else. And they didn't realize,
If you wrote this book, which you say you did, it was very well written.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know anything about good writing, but there weren't any stalls. It was on to the point, and on to the next thing, and on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I had the Holy Spirit sitting on my shoulder without a doubt. I had a great teacher. The teacher that helped Patsy come back, she gave me a crash course in English.
Linda.
No, Linda was her caretaker.
Right.
Muriel, okay, who was one of her teachers that taught her the math and English, Patsy had to relearn everything. Okay, her mind was her brain was completely wiped out. But it's amazing what the power of God can do. But in saying that, she's the one, okay, that came in and gave me a crash course in English, punctuation. She writes at the end of the book, which is not in the Bible, first 4 chapters she was pulling her hair out with me because I was like, whew. But I got it. I mean, after I got to the 4th chapter, I started to realize, what I had to do as a writer to make this thing work. And what I wanted to do, and I truly believe that God put in my heart, he wanted me to be able to write in a way that people that don't read much will love this, and people that are avid readers will love it. That's almost like an oxymoron. That doesn't happen. And I have so many reviews, if you go to Amazon, talking about how easy this thing is to read. A lot of people say they pick it up and they don't put it down until it's finished. One sitting. I had somebody about a week ago say she never reads books, but she read this one. So my goal of what I wanted to do is actually becoming reality.
Do you think you could write another book this well, or do you think God helped you to write this one? That was a one-off sort of thing.
Well, I think I can write again. I wrote a screenplay. So since then, I've wrote a screenplay. Okay, I got to
referring to the book.
Oh, absolutely. I'll share a little bit with you. So I write the book, and I got a good friend that works for Movie Guide. Movie Guide is a nonprofit organization that lobbies Hollywood to make better films and more family-friendly. I know this guy, Michael Hall, became a good friend of mine. So he knows a lot of the producers and writers for Christian films. So this guy, Kerry Solomon. Now Kerry was Jewish and he became Christian. Well, he did God is Not Dead 1, God is Not Dead 2, Do You Believe? He did Unplanned. He's made some good movies. I send him the book, right? He reads the book. He calls me back. He says, Ron, it's a great book. He goes, I wouldn't know how to write it. And I said, okay, well, man, he's just blowing me off, or whatever. So I see him 6 months later. I got invited to one of the gala parties at Movie Guy. He's there. We get introduced, and later when we're up in the VIP room, he comes up and goes, I want to tell you something. God put in my heart, he wants you to write the screenplay. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I can do that. In fact, I talk about that in the beginning of the book. Me write a book, Lord, you got to be kidding me. Now, you write a book, that's like driving a fast car. You write a screenplay, that's like flying a jet fighter. I mean, it's totally different thinking. So I said, well, he's probably just saying that because he doesn't really want to write it. So I go home and I'm brewing on this thing for like 6 months, and I meet with my friend Michael Hall, and I said, Michael, I want to write this next book, Free Will Equals Choice, and I got a great idea for it. And he goes, you need to write the screenplay. And I go, but I can't. And he looks at me and goes, all things are possible and God's in it. And it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. Again, I call Muriel. And she comes over, and we get these books, How to Write a Screenplay, literally for dummies. So she's reading it out loud while I'm reading, because I absorb a lot more when I hear it. So as I'm reading it, she's actually verbally speaking about it. So we go about 2 months learning this trade or art, or whatever you want to call it, and we start. And we did what they call a storyline of what we want to do and what we want to accomplish in the film. So I've been working on it for 3.5 years. Now, Muriel, after about the first 8 or 9 months, then I went on my own. And it took me a long time to become a screenwriter, because I thought like a writer. So when you think like a writer, words are very powerful. Words are very powerful in a book. But in a screenplay, words are not powerful. It's visual. It's telling the story visual, because you only have about 110 to 112 pages, okay, to write a screenplay in. So you have to have visual. It's a whole different mindset. So I was always thinking, okay, how can I write better? How can I shorten things up? How do I get the dialogue? And then I met this gal named Susan St. Peters, and I gotta tell you what, she is a saint. And I met her. I went to a writing school, a writing class, the movie guy had, and I met her there, and she just opened my mind. She took my screenplay, she went over it, she told me a lot of things to cut out, do this, do that, and I started reworking it. And then she started telling me more visual, more visual, more visual. And I wasn't getting it. And maybe, I don't know, 6, 8 months ago, maybe a little 9 months ago, I got it. I actually could write like a screenwriter now. I can actually look at something and say, nah, I need to put that more visual. I need to do this more visual. And what that does is it makes the film just more powerful that way. And even to the point where I've got it very detailed, so that, a good director, who I'll tell you who I want to direct this, is Mel Gibson. In fact, my attorney from Hollywood has reached out to the producers or his agents, I'm not sure which one was, and they took a look at my Amazon reviews, and they looked at the website, and they said, if you get it funded, Mel would be very interested. So I'm going, okay, that's funding is 90% of it. So, on top of that, I want Kevin James to play me. I do. I think the guy could do a great job. The guy has got a very versatile range. I'm being serious, because in the screenplay there's a lot of humor. I like humor, so I put some humor in there, and I think he could nail me. I really do. And I want Dolly Parton to play Linda, and then I'd love to have John Voight play Charles. Charles is the only fiction character in the screenplay. Now, the book is 100% true. The screenplay is about 85% true, and I wanted to keep that as close as I could, because I think that makes it more impactful. So when people go to the website and go, "Oh my God, this stuff really happened," I mean, that is going to be an impact on them. And if you look at like Top Gun that was just done, people go to that bar just to be in that bar, and it's not even real. This is real. So you can imagine the impact that it's going to have on people when they realize this really happened. This is going to change lives. There's no doubt in my mind. I think most Christian films, they go what I call preaching to the choir, and they're going for people like you and me that really love Christ, but they're not going for the people that are either lukewarm, okay, or they're non-believers. I'm going for the lukewarm and the non-believers. This book. And if you go to my reviews, you'll see there's many times they'll say, I don't like the genre, but I like the book. So they're not believers. And yet, so my goal, and I think what God put on my heart, was to write this so that you will get the lukewarm and you will get the non-believers.
Now you got, what, 9 billboards throughout Atlanta?
Well, I did back then. Oh, yeah. That was in 2006. I put up, this is great.
9 billboards. Now, billboards in Cleveland are expensive.
Oh, they were expensive.
I'm imagining Atlanta is over the top expensive.
Well,
what were you were really genuinely wanting to tell people, because there was no profit in that, right?
No. Well, what happened was, I mean, and I'm sure you read part of the book. Obviously, I don't want to tell too much of the book away.
Now,
but
the audio is reading from the book, correct?
correct. So, but what happens is that Patsy, all the physical problems that she was having, and there was a lot of them. She had C. diff, she had a blood clot, she couldn't swallow, she was paralyzed on her right side, she had pneumonia, they couldn't keep her oxygen up, and they couldn't get her temperature down. All these things were going on at one time. What happens is, over a weekend, I had thousands of people praying. I wanted to be able to put Patsy in a rehab. Yeah, you read that right. So, on that Monday, all the physical ailments were gone. So, Shepherd changes their mind. Shepherd Clinic wasn't going to take her. On their own, they changed their mind and called Duke and said, we're going to take her. So, Patsy had to get ready to go from Raleigh, North Carolina to Atlanta. So they had to put a permanent feeding tube in her. And the nurse comes out after they surgically put it in, and she goes, oh, don't worry, this is state of the art. It'll last for years. And I said to her, ma'am, it won't be years, it'll be months. And it wasn't even months, it was like 2 days, 3 days. Patsy could swallow. The doctor,
The crackers.
Crackers, correct. So, what do? I go to my pastor and I said, I want to put up billboards. And, he's looking at me like, was this guy crazy? But he was listening to me. And I said, look, he goes, well, why don't you just wait until she's healed, totally healed? I said, faith without action is dead. I go, I know what he's going to do. He told me. And the thing about it is God will put something on your heart, but you don't hear his voice. I've heard his voice. And you know who else has heard his voice? John Voight. Tucker Carlson interviewed John Voight, and John said that God spoke to him. So I'm hoping and praying that I can get to him and get some interest from him.
It was the voice you said in the book was so real that you thought your friend had said it.
Oh yeah, well, it was so majestic. It was so echoing. And
did it sound like his voice, or just
it was a voice like I can't even explain it. Dee.
Does it give you chills?
Yeah. And what happened was, I'm looking around, who said that? And I opened the door and go, Dave, what did you say? He goes, Ronnie, I didn't say anything. I go, Dave, what did you say? He goes, Ronnie, I didn't see anything. Get in the car. So I close the back door. I get in the front, and I realized it was God. And I mean, how many people does God speak to? I don't think that many. And why he would pick a wretched guy like me is beyond my belief, but he did. Because
now, your faith in God, was it always this strong?
No.
Now, when your wife, one thing I was a little bit confused on, she said she didn't remember even the cruise.
No, she didn't remember.
But she was operating at the cruise, right?
Yeah. Well, the cruise happened 2 years before she got sick.
Right.
A lot of the stuff when it has to do with the virus, she's forgotten, which is probably a blessing. So she, most of her memory from the past is there, except for when she had that episode on the ship, and then obviously the whole time period when she was sick. But what's interesting about all this is that this virus is so lethal that it eats your brain. It's like having shingles on your skin, and how it eats your skin. It eats your brain, and one thing about your brain, there's no cells to reproduce the brain. So once it's gone, it's gone. And God, Patsy, when she got into Shepherd, all she had was her lower cortex, and that's the primitive part of our brain. Okay, and God made the pathways back so that Patsy could learn and to be able to remember, and that's a miracle. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And her doctor, I don't know if you got to look at the website. He goes, Patsy's not a little miracle, but a big one. He's never seen anyone recover like this. And Patsy had it as the worst. People get this, and some people don't even go into a coma, but they get it. And they still have problems. Patsy's was full blown from 1 to 10, 10 being you're dead. Patsy had a 9. And for her to come back,
they gave her what, 10% chance of living, and should be need help
Oh, she'd be an invalid. She'd be in bedridden.
if she was
If she
one of
makes
the 10%.
If she makes it, yeah. So the thing is that, and here's the thing that I don't think, that I didn't even realize until later, was when Jesus healed Lazarus, all he said was, "Come out," and Lazarus came out. God wanted this one different. He wanted us to persevere, so that he would let people know to trust him no matter what. And I think that's what this story is about, to trust him. And look at the times we're going through right now, Dee, when COVID, 98 to 99% of people don't die. And yet Patsy's was completely the reverse. So this is, so people are looking for God. Where is he? And this story is going to show them that he's still here. And I think that's going to be, I think that in itself is going to help a lot of people.
When did she go to the hospital the first time when she was put in the?
All right, so what happened was,
Or what year?
all right, that was in 2006. Okay, she's in Chattanooga, okay, with my granddaughter.
Right up the road here.
Yeah, right up the road. And they're doing a cheerleading contest. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay, I went to Duke because I always have a weight problem, so I'm always trying to lose weight. So I'm at their fitness center. And my son-in-law calls me, and he goes, "Ron," he goes, "Patsy just tried to put eyeliner on her cheek." And Patsy was with her daughter, and they're very concerned. And I'm going to go meet his wife, which was Patsy's daughter, halfway, pick him up, and then bring her back to Atlanta. And I go, "Okay, you get her home. I'm on my way home." So I get on a plane. I get there, and my son-in-law picked me up, and Patsy wouldn't come. Now, Patsy, she had this episode, but then she came back, okay? Just like she did on the boat. So I get home. So I try the Gestapo tactics. "You're going, Duke, we're going right now. Get your stuff packed." And she's very stubborn. She says, "No, I'm not. I got too much work to do." And I'm going, and we're arguing, right? Yeah. And it wasn't working. And I finally got on my knees, and I begged her. Because I knew it was serious. And then my son-in-law, he said, "Patsy, listen, there's something, it could be something serious here." And then I think begging her, I think I got her attention. And then we took off. I grabbed her, my dog, so my dog came with me, grabbed my dog, and we flew back to Raleigh. And they had a week.
Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid, yeah, great dog. So what happened was they put her through all these tests, I mean major tests, for a whole week, and they couldn't find nothing wrong with her, nothing. And that Friday night, we were having dinner. We were having dinner with some friends from Duke, and she was very quiet. And I was like, okay, I didn't think too much of it, but that next morning, all hell broke loose. And she was actually standing, and she was completely oblivious to her surroundings. And I picked her up. I ran out to the car, put her in the car, and Duke was only about 5 minutes away. It seemed like forever. And we got her there, and then, I don't think Duke even realized what was going on. This is so rare. It's a very rare illness to get, because when you get shingles, okay, usually, okay, they will never go up your spinal cord. In her case, it went up her spinal cord and up into her brain because her immune system was weakened. And a lot of it had to do with she was always working and not taking care of herself the way she should have. So anyway, we go through all these steps. I get there, I get her in the hospital, and you read in the book about some of the stuff that was going on, and then they get her temperature down, so they give us a room for that night. And then I have sleep apnea, and I had my sister fly in to stay with her. I wasn't going to leave her alone. So, and I couldn't sleep there because I got to sleep with a machine. So I wanted to leave, and she became a 2-year. She was a 2-year-old. She was a 2-year-old before she went into the coma, and then when she came out, she was still a 2-year-old. So, and I didn't put the connection together right away. Okay, but I got to tell you this, Dee, and his voice gave me the strength. Without that, There's no way. I wanted to believe, and before I heard from Lord, because when I first moved to Atlanta, first thing people say, well, if you ask for a miracle, you better expect it. And so I thought I'd take that approach. So I started telling people, oh yeah, she's going to be healed. God's going to heal her. I didn't believe one word of it. I wanted to believe it, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't have it. I could not believe it because what my eyes and my ears, from what the doctors were telling me and what I'm seeing, looked impossible. And, I think, God knew that. And
Until you heard the voice, were you like saying it as almost a cliche?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't believe one word of it. I wanted to. And it was the night before that I cried out to him. I cried out to him and asked him, Lord, why aren't you answering me? And then the next day he did. So,
When you hear people saying that they heard God's voice, prior to that, were you sort of like, yeah, right? Were you skeptical?
Well, because some people say, well, God said, told me to tell you this, and God told me to tell you, so you have to, but I think under the right conditions and the right person, I would believe them, okay? But I'm sure you hear people say, well, God told me to tell you this, and well, you did, really? How did you do that? So I think, and maybe they really meant by putting it on, they put it on their hearts.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I have. I believe John Boy. Well, obviously, I learned that after I've been spoken to. But I believe if somebody would tell me that and see the story. Here's a guy, okay, that his wife, okay, they're giving her less than a 10% chance to live, and if she lives, she's going to be bedridden. And this guy starts saying, well, she's going to be healed. But then, all of a sudden, his actions. I think this is the difference of my actions. Because I bought her a car while she was in a coma. The dealership had called me. And I said, hey, Ron, I know you buy your wife a car every year or two. And, this is, the new model, 2007 models are coming out. And he said, there's a big body change. My first reaction was, probably not a really good time right now, Dave, to doing this. And then all of a sudden, I heard that voice. Your wife's going to be healed. And he didn't say it at that time, but I was in my mind.
You were remembering.
I remember it. And I said, okay, Dave, do they have a midnight blue with tan interior? He goes, absolutely. I said, order it. And I took out my credit card and I put a $500 deposit on it. Everybody in the IC waiting room thought I was completely insane. My children, my friends, my family, and my daughter comes up to me and goes, Dad, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing here? Don't do this. You're setting yourself up. You're gonna end up in the funny farm. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, God spoke to me. So I did it, and so that was a big thing, okay? And that was a real race because he said, well, the car's going to be in September. Let me tell you about God's timing. God's timing is perfect. We're about 2 weeks before September. I have the date circled on my calendar, and I'm saying, Lord.
Was that symbolic to her getting better, getting the car in your mind, that time frame? Was it a carrot for you that was...
Well, it was that I was believing in God, and
Right.
I was believing He was going to heal her. I just didn't know the timeline. I didn't know when, okay? But I felt like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk in faith. So 2 weeks before the car is supposed to be in, I'm looking at the calendar, and I got it circled. And I said, Lord, she's not going to be ready. Because Patsy was the lights were just starting to come on in late August, early September. And I go, well, you know what I can do, Lord? I'll just buy the car, and I'm going to let the car sit there, okay, until she can drive it home. God saw that differently, too. A week later, I get a call from the dealer. He goes, Ron, I'm so sorry. He goes, your car's going to be delayed. Her car's going to be delayed until Christmas. I said, yes. And when I said that, he goes, you're happy about that? I said, yeah. I didn't tell you when when we ordered it, what was going on. So I told him the story. And he goes, wow. He goes, is she going to be able to drive it? I said, she'll drive it. So, as the story goes on, she starts to drive. And the thing about Patsy was never a good driver. We'd drive from Atlanta to Ohio, and I'd be biting my nails because she tailgates. And you never tell a woman that they don't drive good, right? You know better, right? So I said, you know what, Patsy, let me drive. You relax. You've had a tough day, But man, I tell you what, she became a better driver after. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Her driving skills are so much better now than they were before. So, I think that, God timed it perfectly. The whole story was about trusting him. There's an old saying, Dee, faith without action is dead. And that not enough people put the faith. The Lord said that you could, the size of a mustard seed could move mountains. So faith is, but here's the thing with me. I didn't have the faith. God gave me that grace for faith. He spoke to me because I couldn't have had it without it. There's no way. I don't want people to think I'm some kind of superhero because I'm not. It's his voice. It's his grace that he gave me. Why he chose me, I have no idea. And I'm just thankful he did. And so it's hard for people to have faith. But it's stories like this that give people that faith. It's when Jesus was on earth, what did he do? He performed miracles, right? Why did he do that? So that people would know that he's the Son of God. There was a purpose to that. And I believe there's a purpose for every miracle. Now, did God know what I was going to do, write a book and a screenplay? Absolutely. I had no idea. But he did. Is that why he did that for me? I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But I think the thing what really, really makes me think is when he spoke to me, he said to me, Ron, this is not about you. This is about me, and your wife's going to be healed. Now, I got the first part. This is not about me, because I was so worried, what kind of life would I have if my wife was an invalid? Then he said to me, this is about me, and I had no idea what he meant. And then he said, your wife will be healed. I got that. It wasn't until after I wrote the book, before I started the screenplay, when he was saying, this is about me, he wants to be glorified. And I think when we glorify God, who benefits? We do. Mm-hmm. That's how unselfish he is with his love. That even in his glorification, we're the ones that benefit. So I truly believe that this story is going to bring people to Christ. I have no doubt in my mind that it will. And it's the way it's done, and it's documented. I've got, ABC Channel 2 did a special, 700 Club did a special. So there's documentation there showing it. And then actually the doctor's saying, Patsy's not a little miracle, but a big one. So I have the documentation. So when they go to see that movie, when they go to see that film, and they go to that website, it's going to blow their minds. And it's going to just give them faith like they've never had.
And you want to do this because you want to tell the story.
Yeah, I want to glorify God. I want to glorify God. That's what I want to do. That's what he wants me to do. Because that's what he meant. This is about me. So, it's the things that I'm piecing together. Up in 1994, I got saved. Prior to that, I was a bad guy.
How old were you then?
I was, I was 43, 42. And
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah,
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, grew up in Cleveland. And, in a typical Italian family. My grandparents were immigrants. My parents were firstborn here. And, so...
I'm Italian also. So
I know. And I love it. And
can you tell?
Oh, not really. But in a way I can. In a way, yeah, I think I can, yeah. The more I look at you, yeah. But, I think... I do think that, in this, about why God did it this way, the time and everything. So now I want to finish the story with this. The car dealer says, okay, it'll be in at Christmas, right? Patsy takes her test on December 21st. In the state of Georgia, if you have any kind of brain injury, you have to retake your driver's test. She passes the test. We drop Linda off at the airport. We're driving back. I get a phone call. It's the dealership.
Within
2 hours. he says to me, Ron, you're not going to believe this. The car just got here. They're taking it off the truck.
What are the odds?
Yeah, what the odds of that? So I go, oh, I can believe it. And I go, when can we pick it up? And we picked it up on December 23rd. And I got a picture of that with a big bow on the car. It's in the book. And, you know, it was just unbelievable. It was just, his timing was just unbelievable. And you know, a pastor, a good friend of mine, okay, great guy, he's got a church in Atlanta. He came to see Patsy. Patsy's a little girl. She was 3 times the size, just blown up with all the fluids they're putting in her. And she was milk white. He later told me, Dee, he said, no way. No way. No way. And that's what he told me. He goes, it was a true miracle. So no, even the clergy, I think, were down with me. You know, my church, at the time I had a great pastor and a great associate pastor, but a lot of people in the church thought I was nuts. They thought I was going to end up in a funny farm. So when I wrote the screenplay, God bless you, when I wrote the screenplay, I didn't want to use my church, so I used Charles. Charles represents my church, okay? And Charles is out to save me from myself because he thinks that I'm going to make all Christians look like nut jobs. Because I went out there and I put these billboards up, Jesus healed my wife. And he goes, well, she's not healed yet. I said, she's healed. It's just a matter of when. And really, the physical part was done with just the mental part of it. So I think that it was important that people know about God's timing. And not everything goes the way we want it to. But we got to trust them. Even in diversity, you have to trust them. And sometimes, you know, things don't go the right way. You know, people say to me, why Patsy? Why not my husband? Why not my wife? I prayed. And I said, I can't answer that question. But I can tell you this. God healed Patsy to save lives. I believe that with all my heart. He healed Patsy to save lives. And that's what's going to go on here. Between the book and the film, people are going to come to him. We're in some tough times, Dee.
Very tough times.
Very tough times. And I don't understand it. You know, I grew up in Euphoria. I grew up in, man, things were nothing like this. And America was never perfect. But it was a lot different than it is today. The lies that go on. And I shared a little bit with you about, you know, the story about taking my picture and putting it into New Jersey and putting this extremist, you know, so I mean.
Totally unrelated to you.
Totally unrelated to me. Totally unrelated. So it was a lie, and they knew it. They knew it. And it's not like, oh, we made a mistake. This was a malicious intent. And I think what we have to do, Dee, is we have to fight. And the only way to fight these guys, okay, is to get into their pockets, because that's what they understand. So if people start boycotting these woke companies, okay, they're gonna feel the pinch. And I'll tell you right now, they won't be talking the way they're talking now. And that's what we need to do. And we need to organize and say, look, if you're going to do this, then we're not going to buy your products. We're just not going to buy your products.
The folding of the dollar stops a lot of stuff.
That's exactly true.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. So, Ron, tell me what it was like growing up in Ohio.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. I was telling you earlier, my parents were both Italian. My father was Sicilian, all Sicilian, and my mother was from a northern part of Italy called Abruzzi. It's more of a region. And, well, they clashed. My parents fought a lot. But
isn't that Italian, basically?
It is. And my dad had 12 brothers and sisters. My mom had 3 brothers and sisters. So we always had family over all the time. People, neighbors, everybody came over. Today, nobody does that anymore. Yeah. I don't even know my neighbors, you know. But, you know, I grew up, I went parochial grade school and high school. And like I said in the book, I struggled. I got all D's and F's. And here's the thing, since this reminds me, how does a guy who hadn't read a book in 40 years gets all D's and F's in school, and if it wasn't for his mom, he wouldn't have got out of high school, and every year I went to school, I had to go to summer school. How does he write a 5-star book on Amazon? You tell me that.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't it get Book of the Day? Like
I got
for
Book of the Day and the Book of the Month, too.
That's a big deal, isn't
That
it?
is a big deal. How does that happen? Oh, but I didn't even tell you about the screenplay, right? Kerry Solomon, we were talking about him. He offered to buy my screenplay, but I'm not going to sell it.
I'm going to say you're not going to sell it.
I'm going to do this film myself. I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, I've never, 1995, I got into the wireless industry.
But now, go back to, I'm trying to piece it together
Okay, go ahead,
from
sure.
high school. You get out of high
Oh, yeah,
school, what
yeah.
do you do then?
All right, so I'm going to show the whole world how smart I am.
Just like all other Italians.
Yeah, and I built business, and I met I really got successful when I met Patsy. Patsy is the wind beneath my wings.
How old were you then?
I was 32 or 33, and it wasn't until Patsy's got great administrative abilities, and I have zero. So we got together, and we started a company in 1986. And we started changing light bulbs. In fact, up here in Chattanooga, at a strip center, we were changing some of the bulbs that they had that go around the strip center. From that, by 1993, we were doing $25 million. Today, that would be worth probably $75 million.
Changing light bulbs.
So we're not doing changing. We grew it into a big construction company. But the problem was, I wasn't doing it the way God wanted me to do it. I was doing it wrong. First of all, I was going out with prostitutes, okay, and I had a great wife, and I had this big hole in my heart that I felt I had to fill, and I thought women would fill it. And then I was bribing CEOs. I got caught, and the world just came down on me. I made the Wall Street Journal. They were going to come after, I guess because I had a vowel at the end of my name. They were going to come after me for the RICO Act. So, and then I got the IRS. It was a mess. It was a mess. So
Describe that time mentally for you. Did it scare you?
Absolutely scared me, and I think IRS was really leaning on me. They wanted to know where all this money went that I paid out, and I mean I had to pay all the taxes on. I paid for all the, which wiped me out. I mean that pretty much wiped me out. Plus, none of the other companies would do work with me anymore because they were private. They were publicly held. So I got this big shadow on me, right? So I ended up losing everything, and when I lost everything, I ended up in the funny farm. You'll love this story. So they had to take your belt, your shoelaces. It was a humbling experience, Dee. So I'm in the funny farm, and I'm really, what's the word? Anxiety, because because everything wasn't already over yet. It was still going on. So I'm in this group therapy, and it was my turn to speak. And I said, well, I'm losing my Corvette, I'm losing my houses, I'm losing my property. And one guy stops, he goes, wait a minute, he goes, all you've lost is material things. We've lost our minds. And man, I gotta tell you, Dee, that sobered me up. I'm like, he's right. He's right. I still have my mind intact. And from that point on, I was there another 2 weeks, I started helping these people. Zig Ziglar said something that is so true. He said, when you help other people, you help yourself. And that's the truth. And by doing that, by helping them, help me, okay, to get back to work, get my head back. And so I did that, I got out, and I met this guy named Steve, great guy. And he says to me, why don't you come to my Bible study? And this is in 1994. And I said, well, Steve.
Where are you living then?
I was living in Marietta, Georgia. And he said, why don't you come to one of our Bibles? I said, well, I'm not a very good reader. I said, I really don't understand the Bible, because I can't understand it. He goes, well, you come, and we'll do the reading. So I go. And they started reading. And I could verbally, when I hear it, I can understand it, okay? And I started learning more by listening. And I came to Christ. I came to Christ through that. So in that, it was big. When I came to Christ, it was like a bombshell. The Lord puts on my heart that I got to call everybody I've done wrong to and apologize. And I did. And that wasn't hard for me to do. But then he says to me on my heart, you need to tell your wife. that was very, very difficult for me to do. But I was obedient, and I mean, it hurt my marriage for a long time. It did. But my wife, who I love deeply, and she didn't deserve that, you know. And it's hard, you know, when, you know, to think that this wretched man, that God would use me, you know. But here's the thing, Dee, that I didn't realize. He tells me that, right? He tells me I got to tell my wife. In the movie, I actually show a scene from my past because I want everyone to know that when God forgives you, He forgives you. And in my case, He bestowed a miracle upon me. There's nothing more black and white than that. I mean, you can't, you know, I could say to you, well, you know, in the Bible it says God forgives you. Well, you know, you can say, well, maybe just somebody wrote that, you know. But in my case, I've got proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that's why I think He wanted me to tell my wife, because I don't know if I would have put that in the movie if I didn't tell her. So you think about that. Every move that God
Right, yeah. And that is really...
Yeah, you think
about that.
Yeah,
that would have been a difficult for you.
Yeah.
You have to tell her now.
Yeah, oh man, I don't want to do that. but so you think about that, and I have a very vivid scene. I mean, you know, as far as, you know, it's very, very obvious that I'm having an affair or cheating on my wife, and I didn't do that in the book, and because God never said do that in the book, but when it came to the film.
But you weren't doing that from the time she got sick, right?
No, 94, that was it.
Yeah, right.
No, there was a great temptation that I talk about in the book and in the movie. But no, but what happens is, and this is the unbelievable part of all this, is that he says, when I went to write the movie, you're going to put this, you know, on my heart, he goes, you're going to write a scene in there about your past. So at first, you know, I got this gal that wanted to write the screenplay. Well, she wanted like $5,000, and I didn't have it. Okay, you know, I didn't even tell you that part about how we'll get into that later. But so I, you know, and he just kept saying, you know, you got to do this. You got, you know, it's been on my heart. And I told you the story about Michael Howell. So I get started, but she says, don't put that scene in there. The Christians will hate you. I said, really? I said, so tell me which one isn't a sinner. We've all been sinned. And I just felt led to do that, and I did it. And I put the scene in the film, and I think it's going to be a big factor for a lot of men and women who have had infidelity, that God does forgive them. Okay, if you go and ask them. So I think
you think that weighs on a lot of men?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've been in Bible studies where I talk about my infidelity, and everybody got nervous. People won't admit it. But you got to admit it. The Lord says, confess your sins. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to get rid of them, is by confessing them. And if you hide them, that just makes things even worse, compounds it, I think. So I do all this, you know, and I was telling you why, and I didn't realize it until I'm writing the screenplay, that I know why God wants me to do this, because He's going to show everyone that when He forgives you, He does. I mean, Dee, it doesn't get more clear than that. I don't see how people can take it any other way. Why would He bestow a miracle upon me if He didn't forgive me?
Right.
I mean, really. So I think that is an important thing, and I think, you know, obviously I feel sorry for the young guys today. I don't know if I can handle it today. You know, when in the book, which is the true story well, it's kind of true in the movie too, but in the book, really, there was no Jolene. I just made up Jolene. But two women that day hit on me hard. When I had come home, and they hit on me hard, and I went to my pastor and prayed, okay, because I was being weakened. That night, I wanted to go out with both of them. And I mean, I'm fighting. Finally, I took 3 sleeping pills. If I wouldn't have taken those sleeping pills, I would have probably caved in. And if I would have caved in, I'd have never wrote that book, and I'd have never wrote the movie. I can tell you that.
Thank goodness for the sleeping pills.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, and I'm human. You know, you have all this trauma going on around you, and you feel like you need something to comfort you. So it played on my head, and I'm fighting it. I mean, it was God. It was God there with me. He was with me, and I said, I'm just going to take 3 sleeping pills, and I did.
You needed an escape.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did. I needed an escape. Yeah. So I take the sleeping pills. I go to sleep. The next morning, I left. I left town. I went back to Duke. And doing that, I mean, so I'm still a weakling.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only difference is I have the grace of God, and that really, I think He was there every step of the way with me, because I knew I was smart enough to know when this happened to go to my pastor and we prayed, and that helped. But it just kept gnawing at me. I mean, if most guys can relate to what I'm talking about here, and it gnawed on me, and and I got home that night, and I mean, I'm looking at my phone. Do I call?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was very blatant. 2 of them at different times during that day. I mean, Satan knew what was coming. Okay, and he, I don't know, how much he played into this or what, but I know one thing: God was in it, and He made sure.
Maybe Satan was tempting you then.
He could have been, because there's no way, Dee, that I could do this if I would have done that. There's no way. I mean, there's no way. If I would have caved in, I could have wrote the book or the screenplay. I mean,
Do you
really.
think we have that much free will over what we do?
We have free will. Here's what people don't realize. They'll say, oh, this happened to this little girl, and this, why did that happen? Free will is a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is, free will is what creates sin. So a man can go out and molest a child, and it's his sin. Unfortunately, the free will is put upon that child, and that child's not deserving of it, but it's free will. God didn't intervene because God is true to His word, okay? I think the only time God really intervenes is when He wants a miracle to be done so that He can be glorified, so that He can help bring people to His power will be shown, so people will come to Him, like He did when Jesus was on earth. God is true to His word. Free will is free will, and I truly believe that people that are born gay, or murderers, or adulterous, or thieves, or whatever, it comes through the DNA. Okay, sin is passed through the DNA, and they're all sins. Even though America wants to decide which ones are sins and which aren't, they're all sins. And they're all wrong. I'm a sinner. I'm no better than a gay man. I'm not. I'm a sinner. I'm an adulteress. I'm a wretched man. But by His grace, Dee, I've been saved. And that's what He wants to do for all of us, if you'll come to Him.
And coming through all this stuff you have, do you see people trying to get legalistic on religion and worship, and you think to yourself, hey, that's not what it's about? Or do you see it as less legalistic now than you did before all this happened? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, well, you're always going to have your legalistic that, that it's all about the laws and stuff. But then you have on the other side the pastors that are caving in because they need, they need the tithing to come in. So they're lightening up on what God really said, okay, and they're being cowards. And they're doing things and saying things in the church that are against God and against His word. And I think that's a problem, and you can see that in some of the faiths that are out there, that they don't have the guts to stand up. People today don't want to stand up.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. Hello, I'm Dee Burris, and most of you know me as a general contractor. In October of 2020, I started a podcast that I call The Discussion with Dee Burris. Each week, I have conversations with interesting, informative, and fascinating people from Cleveland and Bradley County and the surrounding areas. You can watch the discussion at deeburris.com on YouTube and Facebook, where we would ask you to please subscribe, it's free, for updates and notifications of new shows. It's no problem. Have you seen difference as coming through your experience from the different religions, the Catholics, do you think it's that specific that you have to be under certain specific religious beliefs, or do you think it's just the fact that you believe in God is the thing?
Well, let me put it this way. God is all fair and he's all merciful. He's going to judge you by what you know in your heart and in your mind. So if there's something that you don't know, I don't believe he's going to hold that against you. There are, I always thought my parents are Catholic, and I didn't know if they were going to be able to go to heaven or not. My father loved to, he'd get on his knees and pray to a cross, and then he'd get up and start cussing at everybody. But I do know my parents aren't in heaven. God showed me something with my mom, and my mom actually was in a coma. She comes out of a coma, and she raises her hands, and she starts calling my dad's name, and then Jesus. God showed me that my parents are in heaven. So whether you're Catholic or you're Protestant, I think it's what's in your heart, okay, and what, because man's flawed, so religion's flawed. Religion is man, it's not God. And they make these rules that are stupid. I was in a Baptist church and nobody could drink, but everybody was drinking. Everybody was drinking. You know the difference between a Presbyterian pastor and a Baptist pastor?
Huh.
The Presbyterian pastor will say hello to you in a liquor store. But I mean, it's the truth. I mean, people don't want to, everybody has their own beliefs, okay, to a degree. And because nobody actually really knows what heaven's really like, okay, people sometimes come up with their own ideas. And, I can just say that if you love Jesus, okay, then you love his Father. And if you love God, it's going to be in your heart. And you're going to try to do his will. Not all the time you're going to do it, and I don't do it all the time. But I'll tell you this, I try. Sometimes I might talk about somebody I shouldn't, and I catch myself, okay, or just, I'll share this with you. And this goes, probably because this is the Italian in me and you. I'm in church, and this gal's got these really tight jeans on, right? I grab Patsy, I got to leave. I can't, I'll focus on that. I have to leave. Mm-hmm. So I move myself to another spot, okay? That's how flawed I am. Uh-huh. I'm flawed, but I do something about it. So even if you have men's heads are like, whoa. Even if you get that thought, it's what you do with it. Do you decide to dwell on it, or do you decide to push it out of your head?
The thought's not the guilt, right?
That's right, exactly, yeah. So, and here I'm not a spring chicken. Can you imagine these guys today that are young? It's unbelievable, the temptations they go through. So I say, we're all flawed, but most people don't want to admit that.
But maybe God's not really testing us for all this. Maybe he just wants us to believe in him, and maybe that's the main thing.
That's the key. Oh, that is the key, without a doubt. So here's the way I see it. Whether I'm right or wrong, only God knows. But when Lucifer went against them, and a third of the angels parted ways from heaven, I believe that God created us, and he says it in the Word, to the image and likeness of himself. So that tells me that I'm made to be like God. Even though I'm imperfect, I'm made that way. And he put us here for one reason, and that is to decide, do you want to be with me in the kingdom, or do you want to be without me? And I believe that with my heart. With all my heart, I believe that. Now, the 10 Commandments, I'll tell you what I think about the 10 Commandments. I think that's a gift that God gave us, that if we follow those commandments, we will have a richer, a fuller, and better life here on earth.
Not necessarily follow these and you'll get there.
No.
more of a here's what the
This
better
is the
way.
recipe for life. This is the recipe that you follow to have a rich, full life. And it's not to say that there's not going to be problems in it, yes. But when you follow these, your life will be so much better, so much fuller, so much richer, and you will have a better relationship with the Lord. Without a
And
doubt.
that was written for the Israelites.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was for them
Yes.
so that they could
Oh,
get
yeah,
along.
yeah, Moses, yeah.
So
Moses.
they could get along
Absolutely.
for 40 years.
Right. Because after they took them out of Egypt, they went crazy.
Yeah.
So God saw that, hey, I got to give these guys some rules, okay, or things are going to get really crazy. So, so it's not like we sin every day. None of us, Dee, none of us are worthy, but it's only by Jesus' blood being shed that we have a ticket to heaven, and that is the truth. And people can say whatever they want, but I know the truth, and you can't get there without them. So, I mean, I want, and you know what? Even my enemies, Dee, I want to go to heaven. I really mean that. Forgiveness is a tough thing, as you know. And years ago, I'd forgive somebody, but if somebody said something nice about them, it bothered me. And they go, well, Ron, you really didn't forgive him, did you? You want to say you did. And forgiving somebody, you got to pray for them. You have to pray for that person, and you got to ask God to forgive them. And pray for that person. Praying for that person gives you the grace that you need to be able to truly forgive. That doesn't mean you got to hang out with the guy, by no means, okay? But forgiveness is an important thing because when you don't forgive, you hurt nobody but yourself. So.
Do you ever go back to Cleveland, Ohio and visit your hometown?
I do. I was there about a year ago now. I went for a high school reunion.
Why'd you move to Georgia?
All right.
Because that's a little ways.
I want to be careful because my children are probably going to see this. I didn't want to come. I didn't. My ex-wife wanted me to come. And she pretty much said, if we don't move, I'm going to divorce you. And that was pretty much the whole marriage. If I didn't do what she wanted, she's going to divorce me. So didn't want to get divorced, I moved here. And then 2 years later, we ended up getting divorced anyways. So that's what brought me here now. Romans 8:28, right? All things come to the good and the glory of the Lord when you love Him. I mean, did God want me here? I mean, obviously, maybe God wanted me here.
And that divorce was way prior to Patsy.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh yeah. So, but
Well, now Patsy's first husband's wife became her caregiver, right?
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, and Linda Jackson is an angel. Linda, I'm telling that to the whole world. You are an angel. She is an angel. She now divorced Patsy's ex-husband. But yeah, she is.
He's probably picked another good one.
Well, I used to kid with her. I said, maybe you should go and pick a wife because you're good at picking wives. But she's a great lady, and she reminds me of Dolly Parton. The twang, she's got the same twang that Dolly Parton has, the same kind of mannerisms. But she came and she spent a year with us, Steve, almost a year with us to help.
That was a struggle, I'm sure.
Oh, it was, and it was. And we had her grandchildren come and visit, and they'd stay with us for a while.
Where was she living at the time?
She was in Houston. She lived in Houston.
So that was quite a trek.
Absolutely.
What made you think of her?
She actually took care of my daughter. My daughter got into a car accident and broke both her feet, and she had 2 little children. So I had my daughter, we had a lower terrace in our house, so she stayed there, and I got Linda. She couldn't walk, so Linda came and took care of her. Okay, but before that, her sister had lupus, and she took care of her, and then her ex-husband now, he almost died, and she took care of him too. So she's a great caretaker. And I wanted somebody that loved the Lord. So, and the thing was, this is the thing about how this whole story comes. Linda was there. I was trying to keep the business going, so I was coming back and forth. But Linda was there every day from 8 in the morning till 8 at night at the hospital. From 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning, I hired private nurses. I did not want my wife alone. Okay, I want to make sure. And every nurse that we hired was a Christian. I mean, I didn't say they had to be Christian, but they were. They would read the Bible to her every night while she was laying in bed there. And it was just unbelievable. I mean, to have that, what are the odds of that? Heaven knows. There's maybe like 5 or 6 different nurses. Every one of them were Christians. And every one of them read the Bible. And what they did is they put Christian music in her room and played it. I mean, it's just so many things that went on that, you can't explain.
Would you say Patsy's all better now completely?
Absolutely. She's great. I mean, she's driving. She was going to come, but we have 2 elderly dogs. One of them has to have eye drops every 3 hours. Okay, so I wanted her to come, but I didn't want to leave my dogs alone.
Is Billy the kid still alive?
No, unfortunately, he's not. But he was a great dog, and when I write in the book about, he stayed right by Patsy. His instincts were good. I mean, he knew.
That almost was a breaking point of her actually being more cognitive, wasn't it? When you brought,
yeah, I think the dog helped.
You brought the dog in.
Well, there was what happened was, what really was the turning point, Dee, is when I got a call from Shepherd Pathways. Shepherd Pathways is an outpatient affiliated with Shepherd Clinic. The doctor calls me because he couldn't talk to me. So he tells me, if Patsy doesn't shape up, she's out of here. She's mean, she's violent, she's not going to be able to come here. And that was like shock to me. I mean, what? So I had to go from his office. She was in another room on a couch, and I had to walk. And I'm praying and asking God to give me the words to say to her, to make her understand that she has to listen so that she can get better. And God gave me the words, and I talk about that in the book. And from that point, from that meeting with her on the couch, is when everything changed. The lights started to go on, and within maybe a month from that, she was there. Now she's absorbing everything. And she went to school for 3-4 months, from the 1st grade to the 8th grade, like that, learning. That robot, I remember a long time ago, she just kept learning. She could learn so quickly. So it was amazing, that how quickly she started learning. And then she was worried that she wasn't going to be able to pass the driver's test. And I said, don't worry, you're going to pass it. God's got you covered. And so, I mean, she worked hard. Once the lights went on, my God, that girl took over.
Does she remember much about that period of time?
Nothing.
No pieces of it? Or
nothing. Not probably. I don't think she really started remembering until probably September. That's when she started remembering again. But, I think, Dee, I don't know about you, but for me, it was very difficult to have a wife that had a 2-year-old mentality. Because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what to do, It's like, you want to get her better. She actually pushed Linda one time in the shower, and Linda fell, and she could have got hurt. And I'm trying to tell her, you can't do that. You can't push people. What happened was, what they told me was you could only give her one command at a time. If you try to do more than one at a time, she'll get frustrated and get angry. And that's what happened. She would get angry and get violent. She'd get violent. And that's not like Patsy. Patsy's the most sweetest person you ever want to meet.
Was it her same personality, but violent, or was it a totally different person?
Totally different person.
So you were dealing with somebody that wasn't who you remember?
Oh, no. Patsy's the most sweetest. Anybody will tell you that.
Was her other actions like somebody totally different?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Her she'd punch, she'd kick, she'd do whatever she had to do.
But she knew who you were?
Oh, she started to know who I was once she got home, and I don't know if she, I don't even know if she really knew who I was for a while. She doesn't even know, but she seemed to know. I'll say that. But by the time we got to August and in September, she knew who I was. That I do know.
She just couldn't remember.
Right, she couldn't remember, and that whole period, and it took her a while to get her long-term memory back.
And she may get to where she starts remembering it. Maybe that's.
Well, she'll never remember from the coma to September. She'll never remember that. I don't think
October to December.
Or she knows a little bit about it. She remembers some of it, not a lot. But I think as
So this
we
was
got
like one solid year.
one solid year, I think once we got into 2007, and then she started remembering everything. Anything that would happen, she'd remember. Yeah, it was nothing like you could ever experience, Steve. That would, to be able to go through this, and I mean, I think this, Dee. I don't want to sound pompous or arrogant. I think I was born for this time. I think I was born for right now and what's going on.
You think this is the time
I
in
think-
Ron's life that you're supposed to shine?
Yeah, I do. And I never thought that. I never, and you asked me that, 2 or 3 years ago, I'd have said no way. But I truly believe he's got something for me to finish, and I'm going to finish it. He's got a purpose for me. In fact, I'll tell you what, Dee, he's got a purpose for everybody. But a lot of people don't take him up on it. Jesus said, many are called, few are chosen, right? Well, I believe we're all called. Only a few of us choose. And he knew I'd choose. I didn't. I had no idea I would choose. But I did, and I thank God that I did. And I mean, I struggled so hard, Dee, writing this book. I gave God every excuse in the book. Look, there's no way I can do this. There's no way. And he just kept pounding me. I mean, he pounded me. And what he did is, and I even share this with you, is as a wealthy guy, in '08, I lost it all. And I had to go to work. And I talk about that in the book.
Due to the economy.
You won't read it in the audio, but you'll read it in the book. I had to go to work. And every job I hit, something would happen, I get fired. And that's not like me. Because when I was a kid, I used to get promoted in everything I do. And God wanted this book written, and he was determined. And I got fired from my first job. One of the vice presidents was putting materials on my budget. I caught him, and we had some words, and I got fired. Go to the second company. They were just kind of using me, to build the company. They were going to get rid of me. And the third guy was, and it's not in the book, and it's not in the audio, but it's in the book. He's a Christian. So we start this company, and anyways, he wanted to do some things that I didn't want to do, okay? And I don't get into that. But he doesn't talk to me for 2 weeks. He comes back to me and goes, I've done fasting and praying. God told me to buy you out. I said, he did, really? I said, okay. So I knew the guy was full of, at the time I thought he was full of baloney, right? So I had partners prior in my other business. Before I had partners in it, and I talk about that in the book too. But what happened was, I didn't want to fight him. I said, fine. And I basically didn't get much, and I got out. And that's when I realized, man, what's going on here? So then people catch word that I'm leaving this Christian partner of mine, and they call me, hey, we want to hire you. I said, well, yeah, give me a couple of weeks. I need to think about this. I call them back. They never called me back. So help me God when I tell you that. They never called me back. And I called them twice. So what does that tell you? So that's when a friend of mine said, well, maybe God wants you to be a missionary. I'm going, nah, I'm not a missionary type guy. But then I started thinking, this is about me. This is about me. And he started putting on my heart, write the book, write the book, write the book. And finally, I'll tell you what I did. I actually went to the doctor, and I told him, I said, I didn't want to tell him I was writing a book. I said, I want to try to get a job doing real estate, which I was going to try to do. And I go, I need something to focus so I could pass the test. And he goes, Ron, I've known you've had ADHD for a long time. And he said, I've got something, try this and see if it'll work. And it did. It really helped me. It helps me to focus, and I use it when I write. And it really makes a difference, because for me, my ADHD was, if I looked at the page, I saw the whole page. I couldn't identify each line. That's why I had such a learning disability, because I don't read well. I still don't. But I read. I scan. I don't read. I scan. So, and doing that, and people say, well, here's the thing about miracles. God uses man to heal. God does man does make good products. You know, they make bad products, but they make good products too. And some of the medications that we have, like antibiotics and different, if we didn't have them, a lot of people wouldn't be here today. So there are a lot of good products that unfortunately, they're abused in some cases. But I think God actually uses, God has given man the creativeness and the mental intelligence, I believe, to do things that can be taken as a miracle, I guess. You know, things. You know, people. These doctors that go to Africa and all over for these children that have these hair lips and stuff.
Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff that's done that could be a miracle. And you know what? He said he made us to the image and likeness of himself. So who's to say that these aren't miracles? Mm-hmm. You know, so.
Do you think that a lot of these coincidences we have said, well, that's a coincidence. Do you think they're all connections that God's working in our lives? Now that you're able to connect the dots.
Absolutely, I do. I really do. I really think nothing happens by accident. You know, people. You know, Vince Lombardi, right? Mm-hmm. Great coach. Mm-hmm. He said, you know what he said? He said, winning isn't the only thing; it's everything. He didn't have it quite right. It's timing. Timing is everything. In sports, somebody meeting somebody at the right time, at the right place. Timing is everything. And today could be timing. Who knows? We'll see. God does. But timing is everything. It's not the only thing. It's everything.
Ron, I've had a lot of people on the podcast, and I can tell who's very passionate. And you are probably the most passionate I've had on here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I have a mission. And I write in the book that nobody leaves this earth until their purpose is done. Nobody. You can get hit by a train, but you ain't going anywhere. And I believe that God's got purpose for us. And that, unfortunately, people go through their whole lives and they don't know what their purpose is. And each and every one of us have one.
I guess just wait.
Wait, yeah, or you know, but God puts things on you. You know, I hear so many people say, oh, "I'm going to write a book," or "I'm going to," and they never do it. And they never do it. Why? You know, I don't understand that. I mean, it took an act of Congress for me, but finally, in my case, I was pushed by the Lord. But you have to do. If you're going to say something, do it. People think that success is a magical thing, and it's not. Success is two things. Doing what you say you're going to do always and being the very best at it. And when you're the very best at it, the money will follow. But if you put money first, you'll never be successful. You put the customer first, the patient first, the client first, and fill his needs, because he's got a problem and you've got a solution. And that's the way it works. And when you do that, you'll be sought after. And just like people say, well, do you want to make money on this movie? I say, well, I want it to be the very best. And I mean, Dee, when I say the very best, I'm talking a Hollywood blockbuster. I'm going to get Hollywood to think. They might not do it, but think that we can win an Academy Award. That's what I want to do. Whether they'll do it or not is another case. But I want them to know this is excellence. And if we're going to beat Hollywood, we got to be better. Our movies got to be better than theirs. And if we do that, we'll win. Because I truly believe that movies is what people see today more than ever. It's the biggest arena in the world for people to see.
It's more than an audio or a book.
That's right. Because if you look at this, Dee, what has TV and movies done? It has really hurt us because of the bad stuff that comes out now. And it's changed generations and kids and their thinking. We have to change that. We got to put out movies. I want to be able to start a production company. And I want to travel all over the world, the country, and finding stories like mine. Okay, not so much you have to be like mine.
Because you don't have a unique story. No. I mean, it's unique, but you're not the only one that claims this.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, but I don't know why others don't do anything about it. And some do, some do. But I want to be able to start a production company, and I want to be able to go out and seek people that have done something, have done God's purpose, and whatever that is, to make a film out of it.
If you want residential or commercial plumbing, give Rick's Plumbing a call. Call Jason or Josh. They'll do you a good job. I use them. I've used them for years. They're no problem.
Come on, woo!
Ron, I can say this, you are not the typical run-of-the-mill, Bible-thumping witness of God.
You're right. I could tell you that I was telling your producer,
Gwen,
yeah, I love the Lord with all my heart and soul, even though I'm a wretched man. I love him. And I lay my life down for him. That's how serious I am about this. And I know, I see the path that he's taking me on, and it's just, I mean, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing of what's going to happen here in the next year or two. And I think how this story is going to be able to really help other people understand. Because in the film, I talk about, well, Charles asked me, well, why Patsy? Why not my daughter? And, it was my faith. And I said, no, it's not your faith. I said, I wouldn't have had the faith either if God wouldn't have spoke to me. And I think that people have to understand that free will is free will. And he does not intervene in everything. But when it comes to his glorification, and the glorification is not selfish to him, but helps us to believe, to have faith. And that's what Jesus did on earth.
I've never really heard it explained that way. That is really eye-opening to me.
It is. You think about it. And
I've never heard anybody put the free will against God's will in such a way. That's almost a different take for me.
It is. And really, I mean, God's not a liar. I mean, free will, you can go out right now and you can go rob a 7-Eleven, or you could go wherever you want. You could do any sin you want, okay? And if you happen to get hit by a lightning bolt, it's just going to be that happened. Free will. The lightning bolt hits you. But people would say, oh my God, Dee went out there, okay, and God struck him with a bolt. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. And there's no rhyme or reason to anything other than that he loves us and that he wants us with him. I know that. So I think people read into things sometimes, that look what happened to that guy. Now, I will tell you, there are a couple cases where I thought, well, maybe he did intervene. But I mean, if he does intervene, it's for people to know that he loves us and that he's real. And as Jesus did on earth, by doing these miracles, you think people would have believed him if he didn't do miracles? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But he did those miracles. And he does them today for the same reason. So that people know he's real and that they'll believe that he's the Son of God and that they will come to him. I truly believe that. And God picks those people. And he picked a wretched guy like me. And I blows my mind, but I'm thankful that he did. I'm thankful that I have this opportunity to be able to fulfill my purpose that he's planned out for me before I was even born.
Do you ever lay at night in the bed and say, God, thank you for not taking Patsy?
Oh yeah. I got a picture on the wall and it says, thank you, God, for my wife. I mean, Patsy's, I hope you get to meet her one of these days. She's the best. And I'm not worried of it. That hurt me too, because she didn't deserve the things that I did at all. She's been a very faithful and good wife to me. But what happens is Men get these holes, man, women too, they get these holes, and they think the only way to fill it is through sin. And it's not. That's not going to do it.
Ron, I saw this online, and something drew me to get it, and I did, and I called you. How do people get this book?
They can go on Amazon Books, When No One Else Believed, and my name, Ron Tripodo, and they can order it either Audible or a soft copy, or they can get a digital copy. But I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you get my name? How did you find me?
I don't know. Sometimes I
Boy,
really,
that doesn't surprise
I really
me.
don't know.
Oh, it's God then. I tell you.
I mean, if you said, where did you, I'd have to say, I don't know. I don't know.
Wow, this could
It
be.
just happens.
Wow, this could be divine
God helps
intervention.
me too.
Amen. Amen.
Ron, you've been a great inspiration.
God bless you, sir. I mean that.